Mike, if you don't mind, just go around real quick and just let me know who you are and what your role is here.
My name is Ariel Camp, and I am the economic development, and I've been here about 3 years now.
Emily Heald. My day job is president and CEO of Reliant Credit Union, and I've been serving on this board for, I don't know, a really long time.
More than 10.
Then
Let's
I
just
took
say
a
more than
break.
10.
What's that?
More than 10.
More than 10, long time.
My name is Kay Stone Gans. I'm a business owner in Wayne County. I actually have the Apple Farm stand up in Huron. So we've got Apple Farm. I'm just purchasing a potato and onion farm in Newark. And I also own Legacy Machine and Fabrication located here in Lyons, as well as in Sodas. And I'm on the board. I've probably been on the board for maybe 8
I
years.
think we're approaching 8.
Something like that.
Or everybody knows me, right?
I'm Jamie Cordovel, I'm the fiscal officer here, been here about 6.5 or so I handle all the fund numbers.
Julie DeLilla, I'm the board treasurer, and I serve on the audit and finance committee as well, and also a business owner. I already introduced myself to you.
I'm Amanda McDonald. I am the Director of Credit Administration for Alliance National Bank. Live here in Lyons, and I've been on the board about 3 years.
And we've talked, there's also Ken Van Fleet, he wasn't able to make the meeting today.
Katie Wisniewski, I'm the assistant secretary, and I've been here since September for Mid Creek, so.
Okay.
John Morrell, I'm general counsel for the IDA. I have a law practice in Auburn.
Well, nice to meet
John's
you all.
been here for a long time, maybe, I don't know,
Yeah.
succeeding everybody. His father helped
Yeah.
way back.
Is he also a
United.
John too, or
What?
is he also a John?
Gary.
Gary, okay.
Good. Well, nice to meet you all. I'm gonna hand it over to Katie now to go through a few things.
Yep, so for number 3, on the second page, we have the dates of the board meetings that are coming up.
Work.
Yeah, we're starting on the 8th. And per the discussion we had in December, we are gonna start at 9:10 a.m. moving forward. And so they're, usually the 4th Tuesdays, except in November and December. November is a Wednesday because it is the day before is actually Veterans Day. So we did not, most people have that day off, so we moved it to Wednesday. CFDC only meets 4 times a year, and then we also have the audit and finance meetings, and we have one governance meeting scheduled. And the other one will be scheduled at a later date. So those are, anyone have any questions, comments about the schedule for this upcoming year?
So today wasn't 9:10? Because I left the last meeting with 9:10 in my mind, so I'm
Yes.
sorry if I
Yeah,
kept
so
everybody
what
waiting.
Yeah, the reason why we didn't do this one as 9:10 is basically we have, we put out public hearing notice, which we'll do after this meeting, and then it'll list all of them. But that's fine, it worked out well. And then following that, on the next page, we have the all of the chair people, vice chair, treasurer, officers for the agencies, as well as our committees. We typically have 3 people on a committee. And with audit and finance, with Scott no longer being here, we have to find another person for audit and finance. So we are looking to the board to see who would like to be on the audit and finance committee. You can see the dates that are on the previous page. We currently have Ken and Julie. Is there anyone else who would like to volunteer?
I realize my name is absent from the committees, but I can't commit. I'm so sorry.
If nobody else wants to do them, I probably can. I'm just across the park most of the time anyways, before the.
You would be on 3 committees though. That's the only hesitation I had from asking you.
I know, that's my hesitation from throwing it out there. But literally Tuesdays I'm in Lyons anyways, so I'm literally across the park, come at 8 o'clock instead of 9.
Okay, all right. I didn't wanna, okay, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. very much. And then I'm gonna just tear off my sheet for the contact information. I just like to make sure we have the most up-to-date contact information for people, so if you could take a look at it and add any additional information that I may not have. And also, if you have a preference of work or cell phone to use, if you could just check that off as well, just so we know which one is the preference for you. So, give that to you. If you don't have to change anything, then you just pass it along to the next person. So that's it with dates, committees, discussion.
Can I ask a question, Kate?
Yes.
I know with Tony's resignation, that's what prompted Kim and Dave changing. But can you remind us how the supervisors select who will be here? Cause I was surprised that Scott was off, and I didn't know if that was by choice
Yeah,
or.
so Scott is no longer so it's always the chair of the Board of Supervisors and the chair of the Planning and Economic Development Committee.
Okay,
So Scott is no longer the chair of the Economic Development Committee, he's actually the chair of the Finance Committee. Now Dave, you've been the vice chair, right, of the were you the vice chair last year of the Economic Development Committee? So now he's the chair.
okay,
So that is what,
That's how it
yes.
drives.
Yep, and that's part of our enabling statute, it's the chair of those two.
and that, is that something that's in our bylaws or the Board of Supervisors?
It's in the enabling statute or enabling legislation that we have,
Okay,
that it's the chair of Board of Supervisors and chairs of Planning and Economic Development Committee. The names are actually not listed there, it was just the position.
Right.
Yep,
because I just wanna recognize for Dave and Kim, it takes like 10 years to learn all the acronyms. You know, so to have two new people at one time, it's just,
it is.
it's harder for them.
Yes, we did do an orientation with Dave. I'm gonna schedule one with Kim. I know with being the chair of the Board of Supervisors is a lot.
enough.
So I've touched base with her about it and we're trying to schedule something
Okay.
in her schedule for that as well. But yes, it does take a while. But that's something we've been implementing is doing like a little orientation, either in person or over the phone, provide website information, where to find information, and just schedule some other logistics as well. And then next meeting, we'll talk about some governance topics, trainings and other things that will be sort of another layer of public authority stuff. Dave, do you wanna announce the number 4?
There is a resolution to approve the annual organization.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Okay. Item number 5, motion to approve the December 10th, 2024 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll abstain on that because I wasn't here. The motion to approve the December 19th, 2024 special meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Again, I'll abstain because I wasn't there. Okay, resolution to authorizing the official newspaper designation, which is the Times of Wayne County. Motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, resolution to authorize the bank signatories, which
And do you need it as Dave or David, like as your legal?
Dave is fine.
Okay, alright. Just make sure that that's.
Could I ask you a question? Were there any changes to the resolution, like all these exhibits?
So we have one new resolution which was passed last year, and that was the real estate acquisition policy. So that was added. And then the internal control and finance policy, that is not new, but it was updated in order to address GAPA, what is it, GAPA? GASB rules,
Is that accounting principles?
yes,
General
yes,
accounting.
yeah.
Ooh, I got it.
Exactly.
There's the alphabet too.
Yeah, so those are the two updates with, I'll all the other ones were the same, or
Okay.
are the same.
Any questions on the resolution to authorize the bank inventories? Okay. Do you have motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we'll move on to
Number 9,
resolution to authorize commitment of funds for Wayne County for UPWP, which we got Ryan will introduce that.
sure. So Unified Planning Work Program is a grant program managed by Genesee Transportation Council, which is our regional MPOs, Metropolitan Planning Organizations, transportation-related regional planning. They offer funding for studies. We submitted an application this past year, we're not funded. The idea is to do a multimodal transportation plan, so effectively connecting areas of population to resources. Looking to build on the county's park and recreation plan that we completed last year. The county funds budget line item for the IDA every year for studies and projects. And we're asking the IDA to help support this effort in providing some matching funds for said application. Questions?
Yeah, just to let you know, the application is not open yet, but we're just doing this in advance because it's a very short time frame in the sense sometimes it's not in line with
Yeah, it's
board
like 6
meetings.
weeks. It's
So-
like a 6-week application. you know,
Yeah,
and it
it's very quick.
turns around pretty quick.
Motion to approve that.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Let's move on to the fiscal officer report.
Okay. New start of the year, so we,
Somewhere in here I read that there's a list of properties that would go along with Exhibit P that are part of the portfolio of what this agency owns and controls. I've never seen that list, 6 years on the board.
We have it on our website, it's a PDF and it says, property owned by.
Okay.
So it's always on our website, even with CFDC that doesn't own any property, there's still a document on there with saying none. Just because it is a requirement that we have to have it posted.
Okay, I wondered.
Yeah, and I can send you the link to it when, after the meeting.
That's okay, I can find it.
Okay.
so we have our account balances on here, we did add Q4, which is end of December, the 31st. And then current is through January 17th, when we completed this report. It's looking very similar to the end of the year. Next page is, so in December, we went over, in detail, the operating budget. So we went line for line, we looked at all the expenses and all the income that we can foresee coming in for 2025. So this is where we are to date, for 2025 so far. The project planning ones for the 10,000, the UPWP, that will be in the project planning fund section down there, just as a reference. That's all I have right here.
Okay, thank you. Ryan, project updates?
Things are progressing, I'll say well, on the Butler Correction property transfer. We are effectively organized locally. We've provided all the information that the state says they need to bring to their board for approval. I don't remember the date, do you off the top of your head? The
date?
next EDC or ESD board meeting.
The ESD board meeting, it should be on the agenda for the February meeting, which is usually the third, I believe, Thursday of the month.
So that'll be a big step to getting sort of say legislative approval from the state for the lawyers to start affecting the transfer and sale of their correctional facility property. They did make that 90-day disposition notice about a month ago.
January 9th, I believe it was. Yeah.
So that 90-day, there's a notice to the public on disposition of property for public authorities. So the IDA and its transfer of property to, or pending acquisition and transfer of property to Westbury Lumber, notice was made well over 90 days ago. So we're through our process, and we were keen to make sure we weren't the ones holding this up, by the way. But the state made their notice, so we got about another 60 days to get everything lined up, including ESD's board approval, and then entering into an LDA with Westbury, which is effectively a purchase and sale contract. We call it land development agreement, but effectively the same thing. Setting out terms and conditions, and those are the details that we're working on now with the state, so that our agreement with Westbury mimics and matches where appropriate the state's disposition agreement with the IDA. We're exploring the conversation around any kind of clawback provisions. Generally, the state has described their intent, the interest of theirs to get the property into productive use as a contingency on the transfer. We'll effectively check that box on transfer of the property to Westbury. We're kind of the guinea pig here. Livingston County was the first county to go through a property transfer on a prison, but their approach is acquisition of the property and then subdividing like a business park. So parts of that don't go into productive use over a period of time, there's a clawback provision within the transfer of property to Livingston. So the attorneys at the state are kind of looking to mimic something like that, at least contractually in our agreement. But again, we'll effectively check that box on the transfer of property. But there will be a window, and we're gonna match that up with our pilot terms and conditions, which have very similar conditions on Westbury's acquisition and use of the property. So it has to be in productive use for their pilot to be maintained, it has to be in productive use for them to maintain ownership. Some nuances and questions relative to whether or not they meet those conditions and what happens, but I don't think the state has any interest in reacquiring the property. And we would, of course, work with someone. But I have all the faith in the world in Westbury. They've put together a very good plan. All of our conversations have been great with them. And excited to get this done. It's been, when I got here a little over 8 years ago, voter correction was on the list of things. This is something we need to take care of, and here we are, 8 years later, almost there. So excited to be working through that. Questions on the correction facility project? So we're looking at potentially April closing? Should be good. I'm not sure I have anything else for IDA.
Okay, now, executive directors, I think that's all.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I did not, I was out the last 2 weeks at home. I don't know if you know, I broke my ankle
Oh boy.
and had surgery.
He does have a nice picture.
Yeah, I'll show you the pictures. 6 screws and a plate in my ankle right now.
Went a lot on that one.
Yeah, I know. I wish I had a cool story about how it happened. I don't.
You have to make one up.
That'll work.
I know. You know, ankle wrestling. Ever heard of ankle wrestling? But yeah, I will provide a report for the next meeting. For the most part, my executive director's report has been kind of trying to give you guys the big statewide picture stuff and kind of whittle it down locally, and trying to identify things that maybe you're not seeing. I don't know if this is an effective way to provide a report. If it isn't, let me know. I'm happy to massage the approach, but hopefully you're finding the information I'm providing somewhat interesting.
To me, the most important thing when there is one is that it's frees up our meeting time.
Mhm.
You know, like everything you just told us, if it had been in there, we wouldn't have to take the time.
I probably would have, Butler being a high priority,
Yeah.
Butler being a high priority, I probably would have mentioned it this morning. Speaking of freeing up meeting time, I don't wanna take too much here, but give me five or so minutes on, I'm interested in discussing housing. IDAs in other parts of the state are supporting market rate housing projects through pilots. I'm not looking for a decision or anything today, but I am gonna tease the idea. Generally speaking, the IDA's approach over the years has not been to support market rate housing projects with a pilot, but we have discussed the provision of sales tax and mortgage recording tax benefits for projects in areas that are supported by the municipalities who are supported with our provision of benefits. So about 6 years ago, I was approached about a housing project, in Newark, behind Wegmans over there by a residential market rate builder. And we had a discussion, and effectively it was, if we're gonna run this by the municipalities, I wanna act or bring up a potential project that would be effectively a deviation from the standard projects and what we're approved to provide benefits for under our uniform tax exempt policy. Dave, UTEP, you hear that? That's what that is, uniform tax exempt policy. But housing is the topic of conversation, not just here, not just in New York, but nationally, cost of construction, all the other things. So I've been teased with a few ideas from some private sector housing developers about the potential assistance from the IDA. And I've told them what I'm telling you guys, which is, one, it's not our standard approach. Everything would have to be taken into consideration. We don't have a particular part of our policy to support housing projects. We might consider something like that if and when a project presents certain conditions, whatever that might be, and support from the local municipality. So if it's a town or village and the school board, I would like them, if we're going property taxes. Sales tax and mortgage recording tax may be a little less impactful at the local level, but I would still like their buy-in. And then some consideration to whether or not this is an area, I mean, we are an industrial development agency, right? And the mission is advancing industrial, but job creating projects. Workforce housing has been the condition that other IDAs have approached the reasoning surrounding their support of market rate residential projects. Again, we don't have a proposal or any kind of amendment to our UTEP today. I'm gonna tease the idea of maybe if anyone has any early thoughts or feedback on whether or not this is something you would be interested in us pursuing or something we should be considering.
Or questions you may have that we can provide feedback on.
Well, we had this conversation either November or December already. Is there an arm of the county that has a focus on housing?
No, other than us and maybe the land bank, but it's very ad hoc. We don't have a housing authority in Wayne County.
So is that something that we're looking at?
Starting a housing authority, no. But I have had Wayne Cap, I mean, so, they're not a housing authority. They do some supportive housing project development, but not at the scale that I think we're a typical housing authority might approach development of, for the most part, it would be affordable housing. We are, the county, piloting, if you will, different term, pilot, a single-family residential rehab program that we're managing through our planning side of our office.
Because I think planning should cover housing as well.
We're a little, I mean, to the effect, there, no staff capacity, if you will, just from a time perspective really, on managing an ongoing countywide housing program. We'll see how this goes. This is our toe in the water, working with Pathstone, who's been a great partner. They were a great partner on, we did a farm worker housing project in the last couple of years. But to your question, there is no daily only housing focus related staff or agency at the county level, at least when it comes to the level of potential project development that a housing authority might be tackling.
And do you know if that's been addressed in the county strategic planning for the future?
Well, we had a grant application to fund a county level strategic plan that was not funded. We're gonna go back to the well on that one, but there is no county strategic plan as it is today.
The housing plan did not really specifically talk about creating a housing authority but it did have specific recommendations. And it did talk about IDA's role too in it, but it didn't really say it needed to do this. It did talk about adaptive reuse, which we did in 2023, so we do have that. But there's nothing specific about having a housing department.
I'll start, I think I probably have shared a few links to some news articles or things like that. I mean, Onondaga County is probably at least the most market rate housing projects, a lot of it relative to the Lake Run project that's getting developed over there. But they're being aggressive in support of, new housing projects and support of benefits through their industrial development agency. So it's something to think about and consider. For what it's worth, I'm on the county's land bank board. We're kind of doing an ad hoc approach to housing as it is. The land bank has its particular focuses, so do we. I don't think it's an awful idea. Housing tends to follow, it's like the economy in general, whether or not.
I mean, it's a national crisis, it's a local crisis, and I just think that the county as a whole should be pursuing that, and then we get our direction, because we have not done it in the past. So if we change the rules and start doing it, there needs to be a reason we're changing the rules. And then we'd be changing the rules going forward.
Well, the next meeting, we are having a governance committee meeting beforehand, and we were gonna focus a little bit on housing. What we could do is bring those recommendations from the housing plan to the board, so you guys can review it and see what,
And are there other IDAs that are doing it now?
Yes.
And its structure, you've gone through the structure and how it's set up and how it's working, positives, negatives, all that sort of thing, so that if we do go that way,
This is kind of
it's
a new
something we
thing.
could look at
I'm not sure I could say
to
how
see
it's
how it
working.
works, right?
Well,
So
I
you
mean,
don't know, like there's,
Mechanically speaking,
no, just in general, what's it
How
doing, what's it
successful
doing
it is.
for the economy?
I mean, that's, like with every pilot, it's a long play, right? We'll know in 5 years whether or not, well, I mean, look,
I think the general feedback, so I'm on Ontario's counties,
Yeah.
IDA also, and I think the general feedback from what we've done has been positive.
Okay.
A lot of the focus there was a little bit, they kind of jumped on looking at housing a little earlier on because of some studies and things that were done. And bottom line is they have businesses that need workers, and there's no way to attract workers because there's no homes for the
Right.
workers.
Exactly.
So I think the feedback has been positive, it's been well received by the municipalities over there, at least from the feedback that we've been given. Again, it's a long play, so you don't know
Yeah.
all the implications, but I think overall it's been working. I mean, the difference in the UTOP is addressed in each one and kind of how you're justifying doing it, and they have a well written out, policy and procedure related to housing.
Right.
I don't know that anybody's going out and soliciting to, that we don't want this to be the main focus of the IDA. I think it's a project by project basis, and you look at it, and if it's something that makes sense, then you move forward, and if not, then you don't. There hasn't been anything that's like hold your feet once you committed to one. It's really been at least there, case by case. Basis
same with
doesn't
every
provide
project,
what
by
you
the
need.
way. I mean, there's some consideration to the benefits of every project when the IDA is reviewing and approving applications.
Have you had any preliminary conversations with, you said like the towns or anybody on whether or not they would be supportive of us getting involved with?
Well, Dave's here right now.
We talked about.
But we have talked about housing in our committee meetings. Nothing specific, well, Dave and I actually spoke about a project that's under development in Huron. But nothing, ready to go or, mostly fully baked has come to the table yet. But there's a project in Huron, there's another one over in Macedon.
Just think the feedback may vary from one locale to the
Yeah,
other.
it will.
You may find some that are gonna be very
Right.
supportive of it and others that not so much.
And I'm keen, for a number of different reasons, the IDA can act independent of approvals from local municipalities. But
Yeah, just because you can't.
I'm keen on,
Yeah.
what's that?
I said just because we can doesn't mean we should. I think your approach of getting.
No, I'm not
Buy-in from
suggesting
them is
that,
good.
well, yeah, no, it's a cooperative
I was just
approach in
curious
every
if there was
sense.
any initial conversations like an off record, if you
I mean,
talked to anybody, if people
We're
were
happy,
really
go ahead, Dave.
supportive.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea, I think we need to start looking into housing as a county. I would like to see, from the county to the IDA or whatever acronym, to look into it. I know I've spoken to superintendent of the school district out there, and his biggest complaint is it's hard to hire teachers when there's no place for them to live. And that's one problem they've been having, and so I think, it's unfortunate, but I think housing's something we need to really start looking into and do something about. It shouldn't be that way, but that's the way it is now. People can't afford housing, and it's not just lower end is all the way
It's
through,
all
if people can't move into the next level, they can't afford that.
So that's, yeah, and you know, there's no silver bullet or no particular approach. We've been running a landlord rehab program for the last several years to some success. Drop in the bucket, if you will, probably on the scope and scale of what we could be investing in. Same with our single family rehab program, all income contingent, if you will. But to your point, Dave, the market rate stuff is really where questions come up, right? You know, supporting market rate housing projects is not typical part of our business or IDA's business in general. But we're seeing IDAs getting involved in this. And
Have you had conversations with the projects that are being developed in Newark?
the DRI projects?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Lots.
I mean, cause there's a couple of those that are housing related.
We've had conversations, yes, we've had those conversations.
I think it is also important to note that with the advancement of Micron in the area, that the housing stock issue is only gonna continue to be an issue. And it's a really good opportunity to focus on that, given that even though Micron is in Onondaga County, that a lot of people are gonna be moving into the area, and if there were housing more on the eastern side of the county, that it would make sense that people would move in and maybe commute a little bit further. They
Well,
don't
there's,
wanna be-
and there's Fairlife on the west side too,
Yeah.
so I mean, I think we're seeing it from both sides as well.
And that, I know, talked about this many times, but then it's not only housing, it's water, and it's
Yeah.
infrastructure, cable.
That's always gonna bring up to Brian, the housing project in Huron that they wanna develop, it's all based if we can get water to them. But right now, we're having a very difficult time with the farmers in the area agreeing to sign a petition to have water in the area. And if we don't get the farmers on board, we're not doing the project, and then the housing project won't go.
Yeah.
So, it's just.
It's all really, it's never one thing.
Why don't the farmers, what's their holdup
The
with that?
cost, that stuff.
The cost to the pay, yeah.
Lots of moving parts to all of this.
But I think
I
it's
think worth
something we need
exploring, I
to-
think
we
they
need
got
to
to
look
at least explore it.
Yeah.
as a business
Well, I wanna
owner
continue to
too.
bring it up in our meeting, have discussions with you guys.
Yeah.
We're watching, but I if there's an interest in the board in being more formal about our approach to supporting housing projects, we'll take some steps and bring some potential recommendations to you guys over the next couple of months. Good with that?
Okay, any other business? Anybody?
I had a question on other business. I saw it with Rick House's resignation as county administrator. What's the word on the street of what's happening with his role?
Right now, they sent the ad out, they're sending it out countrywide, trying to attract a candidate. They're hoping to get applications due by February 19th, and then they'll start the process with the search committee of hopefully picking someone and bringing it to the board to approve it. So,
In the search committee, is it board of supervisors? Or,
the search committee will have, I think, head of HR, current county administrator, and 3 board of supervisor members.
thank you.
And that committee hasn't been announced.
As now. We're live streaming, but
No, it's who's gonna, which
Yeah,
supervisors.
like who's on it,
I'm
right?
not sure which supervisor would be on it.
anything else from anyone?
Okay, the next meeting for IDA will be on February 25th at 9 AM. There will be a governance committee meeting before that at 8 AM. Any questions? If not, I'll motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We're adjourned. Next, we want to do.
Let's give Katie just